So fuck it. With me, your host is always Brian Dress. With me as always, Jonathan Hardesty.
What the hell?
CHEWIE Darso.
He can do
And
that.
Emily Blake.
Are we redoing that?
No, not at all. We're just going to keep moving. Special guest today is Elliot Campos. Hi, Elliot.
Hi.
This always happens when we do two in one day. Elliot, how are you doing?
Pretty hot.
Yeah, it's warm in here,
hot
isn't it?
in
Yeah.
California. Your apartment is moderately less hot than outside, but not appreciably so.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll take it.
If we can keep the air conditioning on, it's better, but
But that's not good
can't.
for sound.
no, it's not.
Elliot, you have anything to plug? I think I saw you had a episode of Beyond School come out somewhat recently, right?
Yeah, we just had a new episode of the sci-fi audio play Beyond School, available on iTunes, about a teenage girl who battles evil aliens. We just put up episode 27, and the series is actually ending at episode 30. So we are in the home stretch, guys. So now is a great time to marathon through the entire show and be here when it all comes to a rousing conclusion.
And it's all just on anywhere you get podcasts, right?
Yeah, it's on iTunes. There's a Blogspot page, and there's a Facebook page.
Nice. I look forward to listening to how it ends. I've only listened to 2 episodes. I'm a terrible friend.
I'm used to it.
I enjoyed what I listened to, though. I do want to listen to the rest of it. It was good enough to hook me. I listened to a billion podcasts.
Good enough to hook you, and then you just kind of dangled on the hook.
Yes.
Without
Yep.
actually being drawn in.
Entirely. I'm still swimming for my life, if you will.
Yeah, and I will let you go at some point, maybe.
Maybe. Who knows?
What an interesting look into the
Dangle,
world of the
dangle.
creator and the the consumed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Consumed.
Consumed.
Like, I just keep
some
refreshing
words.
his Twitter
The best
profile to
words.
see when he's going to tweet that he listened to the rest of them.
That's a long wait for me. I tweet like once a month. I
Yeah.
just tweeted about dreaming at spaceships for the first time in like 2 months, like 3 nights ago.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Definitely tweet long descriptions of your dreams. Everyone loves that.
I know. I am the best at Twitter. Everyone should follow me at whybriany for all of my tweets.
I don't think I tweet ever anymore.
I think I have 15 tweets.
I tweet about 1,000 times a day.
Yeah, I don't.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
tweet.
terrible.
I live on Twitter. I
Yeah,
tweet a lot.
Twitter's fun. I live on it.
Yeah,
I don't.
I don't.
what I
Hey,
do
Chew,
at work.
Yeah.
who are you been doing?
Oh. Okay.
We're
Well,
doing
you
a
didn't
pod.
actually
We're
say
recording
that. You
things.
didn't-
Well, no, now I have.
Okay. Well, I don't think what have I watched lately? I wasn't even thinking about it.
You watched, I don't know.
I don't.
You watched War of the Planet of the Apes last week.
Somebody else go. I don't even know what I've been doing lately.
I was going to say this one for you, but I want to save it for myself because I'm a dick. I watched the movie Fist Fight.
Oh yeah.
I was excited for it back when I first heard it was coming out because I liked Charlie Day and I thought him and Ice Cube would be funny together. And then I read the reviews and they were not great. And then I watched the movie and I think it got kind of a bad shake. I think people thought it would be a good movie for some reason. And I don't know why this got like the reputation. Like, that's the one to see. It was exactly what it said it was going to be. It's two teachers being very juvenile about a fight they're going to have at the end of the day. And then they have the fight.
Right.
And it's a surprisingly brutal fight. Like, I was kind of surprised at how fist fighty the fist fight was. Like, it was like, oh, shit. But I enjoyed it. The running gag of, like, it's senior prank day, because the whole movie takes place over one day, and the senior pranks just get worse and worse and worse throughout the day. It's, like, a surprisingly good gag that works throughout the whole movie. And, like, I didn't know that from the trailer, but, like, the one part with Tracy Morgan was like, this shit is getting ridiculous! I was like, I had no idea what they were talking. I thought they were talking about, like, the fight and the ramp of the fight. No, it's just the senior pranks. They're just getting out of control.
They can do that.
I'm just gonna jump on this because I
Yeah.
don't think I did much else this week. I actually enjoyed it,
Yeah, it was funny.
and it's got some of the best meth jokes I've heard lately in a long
Yeah.
time. A lot of good meth jokes.
It was
and
in
all
one of
the
the-
kids are criminals.
Oh,
Like, if
yeah,
I was
terrible
if I was
children.
going to this school, I'd be like, the cops should just come and arrest the entire senior class. You guys are terrible.
The one joke, it was in a couple of the trailers, but from between Charlie Day and I forget her name, she's fucking hilarious though, where she's like, oh, I shouldn't do
She's
meth.
an idiot sitter. And
Yeah,
such.
she's like, oh yeah, it's a gateway drug. He's like, no, that's the finish line drug. Like, that's where you end.
That's it's the end all
Yeah,
meth.
I would recommend it. It's definitely. I mean, I can understand not paying $20 to sit in the theater, but now that it's on like VOD and whatnot, I think it's worth your time. It's entertaining. It's a good way to spend an hour and a half. That's it for me and apparently Chewie.
Yeah. That's...
I've been listening to Greg Sistero read his book, The Disaster Artist. I'm very excited about that movie. Partly because, guys, Seth Rogen plays the script supervisor, who was apparently the only reason that movie is even remotely watchable.
It's watchable?
The Room. Yes. For those of you who don't know, The Disaster Artist is about The Room, the making of The Room, which is a terrible goddamn film. It is watchable if you like turn off every
in the right setting. Sure.
Yeah.
I think we own it.
We do.
You do. I noticed that.
So it was given,
Own it. I
was
mean,
given to us.
Yeah.
Given's a nice way to
It's-
say I stole it.
It's fascinating to watch, but I definitely recommend watching the movie first and then reading the book. Or in my case, I like listening to Greg Sestero read it because he does accents. His mom is French, and Tommy Wiseau has that weird hybrid European accent. And he does, every time he does a line that Tommy Wiseau says, he does it in Tommy's accent. So he'll be
That's
like,
funny.
Greg, why don't you come? Or whatever. I can't do it. But like, it's really great listening
Is
to
he
him do it.
European?
Oh, hi, Mark.
He's vague about it. Like, even Greg, who was like Tommy's best friend, doesn't know where he's from or how he got his money.
We know one of the guys who shot the movie, and listening to him talk about it, it's just fascinating.
Oh, it is.
yeah.
And what's really cool about the book is Greg is really good at establishing both Tommy's weirdness and the reason that other people find him uncomfortable. And it sounds like he really hates women.
Oh, I got that.
Oh, that
Yeah.
guy? No
yeah,
way.
Yeah. But I mean, not just from the movie, but like he's not good at making friends. Obviously, he has real social issues, but also like there's a little bit of pity. Like you see the reason Greg became his friend and why he sees all these nice things that Tommy does specifically for Greg. He doesn't necessarily do them for anyone else, but like, and I've had friends like that where you're like, well, they're nice to me.
Yeah.
You know, so it's actually really interesting. You're getting a real good picture of like, basically his point is that Tommy made this movie because he wanted to kiss a girl and look like the cool guy. And that's so sad when you think about it that way.
Explains a lot of the movie, though.
Yeah, and but it's a fascinating. If you like film history, which I absolutely love, and I love autobiographies, especially when they're being read by the person who wrote them. And it's I'm not done with it yet, but like every day I'm like, oh my god, that's so like it's just I can see why it was snatched up real quick for the adaptation for the film, because which is James Franco. Dave Franco is playing Greg. Like I said, Seth Rogen is the script supervisor. Sandy, I forget his last name, but because even from the very first scene, you can, as he's reading it, you're like, oh, I see this scene. Like, I can see it on film in a heartbeat. So I can't wait. That movie's coming out in December. I'm stoked about it because the book is really good.
The only thing that kind of annoys me about it, and it's just because I'm me, the idea that James Franco insisted on directing the entire movie in character is just kind of like, come on, man.
Did he?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just such a artiste thing.
Yeah, it's just kind of...
Yeah.
Because he was a horrible
Yeah.
person to people. Like, he treated people like shit on set, so don't do that.
Yeah, that's sort of just like, that's just kind of dumb, but whatever, that's me.
Maybe.
Elliot, what about you? Where have you been doing?
Yeah, so dialing it back old school for a sec, I watched The Incredible Shrinking Man from 1957. I actually read the book in college, written by Richard Matheson, the same gentleman who wrote I Am Legend. A really great author. The book was incredible, loved it. Finally got around to watch the movie, and it was good. I really liked it. It's a very faithful adaptation, really going through all the major beats of the book, and it has a lot of nifty forced perspective, kind of size-changing special effects for 1950s. Now, I probably have lowered expectations somewhat for what a movie in 1957 can do that's really awe-inspiring special effects-wise, but definitely the big centerpiece of the movie is a fight with a spider. And in the movie, it's great. It's awesome because it's this huge hulking spider. For me personally, reading the book, I like it a little more as like this common house spider that if you saw it, you would just like, oh, just flick it away. It's like no big deal. Right. But for this guy, because he's so small, like this insignificant little spider becomes this like hulking beast that is trying to kill him all the time. So that minor aspect aside, which is a personal thing, why didn't they have 2017 money when they made this all those years ago? I do highly recommend the movie. It's a very easy watch, and the book is really good as well.
Let's check it out. I read I Am Legend, and then I read his interviews about like, yeah, nobody can get my movies right.
He because with I Am Legend, not only the Will Smith movie, but Omega Man with Charlton Heston, it's been done again and again. But yeah, if you read that book, I remember I actually read it before I saw the Will Smith movie.
Yeah, me too. That's when I read it.
Yeah, and there were sequences in that book where I'm just like turning the pages as fast as I can because it's such it makes your heart pound so fast. But then I go see the Will Smith movie and it's like, where's all that heart pounding stuff in the book? Why didn't they try and adapt any of that instead of having him fuck around in video stores?
So, like, the most important relationship in that book is the antagonist, and they took all that away by making him more of a zombie than a vampire. So
Right.
that core relationship of the book is now just non-existent.
Yeah, and the book, it jumps around in chronology. So there's all these reveals about, like, initially in the book, you're like, oh, there's this, like, bloodthirsty vampire that has it out for him in particular. But then as you read later, it's just, oh, he's a fucking neighbor guy.
And that's what's so sad about that.
Yeah, it's
But
really...
in the movie, it's just like, ooh, it's a zombie
horde.
that-
It's a
movie-
CGI reject from that robot movie.
And I like the movie, actually, but when
the
you compare
movie
it to
had
the
a
book...
good reveal about the dog.
Yeah.
Because the entire movie, he was calling the dog Sam.
Mm.
And then, like, when the dog is, like, passing away, well, you find out that it was, like, his kid's dog, and it was the only part of his family that he had left. And then, sorry if I'm spoiling the movie for everybody. It came out
Haven't
10 years
seen
ago.
it.
On this show, no way.
But, then you find out the dog's real name is Samantha. So it's, like, a girl dog. And it's just, I think that was the most that movie got me emotionally. But I don't know. Maybe I should revisit it for some, like, after the hype podcast thing.
Maybe at some point.
Yeah.
I can talk about why I like I Am Legend, but why, like, it's kind of disappointing that they changed some things.
I'd want to read the book again before I'd watch it again. It's a lot.
Maybe
to
we
do.
should just do it after hype on the book.
Maybe
After the hype, books.
We've never done a book.
John, what have you been doing?
So I got sick of listening to just nonfiction podcasts of people talking about topics like tech and movies and stuff. So I tried to do one fictional. I started listening to an actual play podcast, tabletop role-playing podcast called Friends at the Table. And they just got, like, what was it? Their Patreon just blew up. Got like 7,000 within the first week. Just because I've been working so hard at it. And it's basically a tabletop role-playing game. They pick not original D&D, but newer games other creators have started to come out with that play on that formula. And they kind of play around with critical world building. And I wasn't sure how I'd feel about listening to a podcast of people playing D&D, but after listening to them kind of explore what they wanted to do with the world and then kind of build their characters around that, and then actually go into the story, it was very interesting to listen to. And I actually recommend it. I'm enjoying everything I'm listening to. It's just long. So in the grand scheme of things, it's going to take me a while to get through the whole thing. And they're on a new season, so you can start now and not feel lost because none of the other seasons connect. They're all just like individual stories. So it's pretty cool.
What was it called again?
Friends at the Table.
Cool.
The soundtrack is really good, and the artwork for it is also really nice, really well done.
I will keep an eye out for it.
Yeah.
I think it's time to talk about the movie of the day. Movie on the table, quite literally, in this room.
Let's get on track.
Yeah.
Fun.
So today's movie is Trainspotting 2.
2.
A.k.a. T2, which I am personally offended by. I
Yeah.
do not like that title because
Terminator
T2...
owns that.
It's Judgment Day.
T2 is Judgment Day, which is also the greatest movie ever made.
Correct.
It is.
It is.
I'm sorry.
We're
Star
on the same
Wars
side
is
this
always
week
better
on that one.
than Judgment Day. But they,
No, Star Wars is a great movie. One of the best of all
Better.
time. But the best film ever
Best.
made is Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Correct.
no.
It's just the way it is.
No.
These are facts. They're not opinions.
Yeah, no.
No.
Brian's right on this one, Chewie. I'm
Alternative
sorry.
facts.
How dare you?
You got a little blonde on your beard.
What does that have to do with the
does-
fact
what
that
does that
Terminator
mean?
It's
2...
the only way I can reference Trump.
Oh.
Oh.
I'm wearing a shirt that says impeach him right now.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you can't use alternative facts.
You're using a phrase coined by him to attack somebody they're claiming... You know
Actually, it wasn't
is
coined
what
by
is
Trump.
happening.
It was coined by Spencer?
what?
This is what happens when
Conway?
people are proven wrong. They like to attack you personally
Yeah.
and compare you to Trump.
Oof.
I mean, what's worse at this point, a Nazi or Trump?
And wait, what?
What?
Who's a Nazi?
Who is a
I'm
Nazi?
saying, like, whenever they would say people want to, like, take you down, they compare you to Nazis, so now they compare you to Trump. Who's really worse? I don't know.
I did not see what you're talking about.
Oh.
So back to T2, a.k.a. Trainspotting 2. I'm going to stop calling it T2 now. I'm just looking at the
Yeah,
title.
don't.
this movie came out earlier this year. It came with a huge wet fart in America.
No one realized.
Yeah, it made fucking $2 million. Nobody
There's barely
saw it.
any advertising.
Yeah, barely advertised. Although I still think it has the best trailer of the year so far.
Fantastic trailer.
I love the trailer for this movie, and I do not like trailers at all. But this trailer I think is great. It does a great job advertising the movie while not spoiling anything in the movie.
It's what trailers should be.
Yeah. And then did well overseas. It made its money back and then some overseas. I think it actually doubled its budget.
It doubled it, yeah.
Yeah. So it did very well everywhere else but America. And then in America you bring it up and people are like, oh, they're making a sequel to Trainspotting? No, they made it and it's on DVD.
It's
now.
happened to me multiple times at work at this point. I mentioned to people who were doing this podcast and they're like, when are they doing that? I'm like, it happened. It's already out.
Yeah. Yeah, it just did not have a big ad campaign over here. But what
So
can you
after
do?
no hype.
Yeah, not after the hype, European style, where there was some hype. Yeah, and then the reviews were decent. People liked it. People didn't like it. They're all over the board, and I think there's a lot of good reasons for both of those arguments in this movie, which we'll get into after a breakdown. Elliot, are you excited to do a breakdown for this movie?
Am I ever?
Look how animated Elliot is. I've never seen him more animated.
Good. Raise the hype as far as possible.
All right, so Trainspotting 2 in 30 seconds. Here we go, go!
20 years after the release of Trainspotting, director Danny Boyle cashes in on the debatable nostalgia for the property to reunite his older and fatter cast to explore the tedium of middle age. This movie is 117 minutes long.
I'm getting the feeling
That was
Elliot
amazing.
did not enjoy this. Oh
Good
my gosh.
Lord!
Did I go over the time?
No, you're actually 4 seconds under.
Good job, Elliot.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd say that was success.
Good.
It was pretty cold-blooded, but it was a success.
Holy fuck, I'm dead.
Like, I almost feel like you're describing a date you had. And the at the end, if you described that date to me, I'd be like, so it didn't go well?
Well, for me, I didn't just watch this movie. I watched the first movie as well. So I had an entire movie's worth of building up to this one. So there was a little more pressure on it than there usually is.
Yeah, I
mean,
haven't rewatched Trainspotting, the first one yet.
I mean,
for a
I've
while.
seen Trainspotting, the first movie. I'd want to say almost more than most movies. Like that's like in like Trainspotting for me is like one of my favorite movies of all time. It's in like my top 10. I love it. I think it's. I've been using the word flawless a lot today in both this episode and the one before it.
Oh, you have.
But I this is one of my all-time favorite movies. So there's no way walking into this movie that it will be as good as the first. So I just kind of walked into this one expecting a little less. And with that, I think I was able to come out a little bit more pleasantly surprised. But I did not do what you did where I watched the first one right before it. I think that would have been disastrous.
I did that.
I would say at the same time, I don't think if you have not seen the first one, you're not going to understand this movie.
This movie, no,
fucking
this
all.
is not for somebody who's not. This you cannot watch this one without seeing the first one. I don't think you should watch them back to back.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I only had one movie in between them.
But that's still better than what Elliot did.
Yeah.
To be fair, I
Yeah,
didn't watch
Elliot.
them back to back. I watched one Thursday night, the other Friday
Oh, okay.
morning.
That's-
So there was a little
Thursday night to
breathing room
Friday
in
morning.
there.
You took a nap in between.
Well, I went to sleep for the duration of the night in between.
Did you have weird drug-induced dreams?
Nope, like a rock, because the movie did not inspire anything.
Oh, well, the
Interesting.
first one?
You know, the first one, I did like it. It's very
Had you seen it
90s
before?
independent cinema. I saw it when I was a high schooler.
Okay.
So when I saw it as a high schooler, I really liked it. I looked on IMDb and I gave it a 9 out of 10 star rating. And then after revisiting it, it was interesting because I haven't really thought about it in many years. But watching the movie, there were so many classic bits where
Yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. Man, I remember seeing Spud throw his shit all across the kitchen.
Yeah.
I remember the visceral reaction I had to that as a teenager.
It was
because
gross.
that's tops as a teenager.
Well, yeah, but as even as a teenager, as an adult, when the movie came out, movies were not doing that sort of stuff. Like, we're in a different climate now where that stuff isn't as shocking as it was back when this came out 20 years ago.
Especially Well, when I saw it, it was probably the early 2000s.
Sure.
And at that time, I was only a few years into really watching R-rated movies.
Okay.
I had a very delayed period of getting into the harder stuff.
Right.
The first R-rated movie I ever saw was actually Billy Elliot.
That's R-rated?
They say
There
fuck
is.
a lot.
God
that's
forbid.
my mentality at that particular time.
I love Billy Elliot, by the way.
It's a charming sleeper.
Would you call it flawless?
You
You know what? I would.
All right.
Another flawless film for the day. But no. So the interesting thing that I think about, like Trainspotting to Trainspotting 2, specifically, and it'll be kind of the theme of the day, is like this movie entirely rides on nostalgia. Like
Right.
it is made for people who are nostalgic about the first movie, who always wanted that sequel and never got it. Nostalgic about the characters, about the music, about everything. This movie, and then the meta nature of it, to quote Danny Boyle, is that all of the people in the movie are nostalgia for the exact same thing that they're expecting the audience to be nostalgic for. So I think it's kind of an interesting way to make a movie, and I think it was a really interesting way to tell this story. Was that while you're sitting here expecting to see like some callbacks, like him getting hit by a car and doing that like wide-eyed grin or any of that stuff, they're also wanting the same thing. So when I watch like most of these like 20-year later sequels, a lot of them feel like they're trying to pay homage to their original source material, but they're trying to pay homage to their original source material, whereas this one is using the source material to tell a story. And I think that was really, for me, what sets this one apart from all these other like way late sequels we've been getting a lot of lately.
This one definitely doesn't try to mimic the aesthetic of the first one.
Right.
It really feels worn out, middle-aged, tired. For the first one, it's so of that 90s independent scene where it's very punk rock and dirty. It's very much of the time, and I feel like what you were talking about, how this one, it's catering to the nostalgia of the times. That's what our film industry is built on right now.
Oh, totally.
So it seems like both of these movies are very typical of the product that is coming out of Hollywood around their release.
But what's interesting is the fact that despite this being all about old and nostalgia and them not getting over things, they're also using amazing cinematography, modern camera work, modern editing, and a lot of graphical overlay stuff that's just wasn't as easy to do in that time. And they're really putting like a new spin on it, which was a very interesting kind of commentary
At the same
on that.
time, I didn't feel like it was motivated. Like, that's the thing, is like the first movie was about people who were high all the time, so everything was surreal and weird, and it made sense. And I say this as someone who, like, Danny Boyle is one of my top like 3 directors of all time. I don't think he's made a bad movie until this, and I feel like everything he's done is genius. So I went into this with high expectations because I'm such a huge fan of Danny Boyle. I love everything he does, and this just it was like he used every trick in the bag. It was just like, oh, here's a cool thing, here's a cool thing, here's a cool thing, here's a cool thing, and none of it felt like it came naturally from the story. Like I said, they were drug addicts. They all saw things in weird ways. When he goes on that big rant about choose life, that's youth. That's like this we all could kind of, young people could relate to that, because it was sort of just like, yeah, well, you know, when you're that age, you think you know everything, you think you have all the answers and all that. This time, this speech it was sort of like, oh, here's a speech I gave that doesn't really fit anymore.
See, I disagree. That speech nailed the movie for me. I think that was the best part. Like, maybe not the best part of the movie, but up there, because that was him saying, "I failed."
Yeah,
And that's
that's true.
And that
all
is him
failed.
talking to the 20-year-old who still has her life in front of her, saying, "You have the opportunity to not fail like I did. Like, these are all the things I should have chosen and done, and I didn't. I chose drugs and an easy escape, and I fucked my life up."
And I think that's still my problem, though, is that I feel like when I'm watching the original movie, like, these people can turn their lives around. Like, at the end, you're like, maybe he'll get his shit together. Maybe something will come of this. And in this movie, it's more like, oh, I guess that didn't happen. What are we rooting for now? We're rooting for 40-year-olds to get their lives
But that's
together?
the thing is, I don't think you're rooting. To me, when I watch this movie, it touches on a lot of fears that I have about my life in a way. And be like, okay, so the movie before this, I haven't rewatched in a while, but I remember it being like all about these crazy kids doing lots of drugs, but then feeling like you can really rise above your circumstances and, like you said, become something, even if you have to screw everyone over. And in this one, it just shows that they all failed. and you get older and you have all these dreams, and you're stuck in a rut like most of them are, or you went out and you tried to do this stuff and it still ended poorly and you just end up right back to where you were.
So basically it's Alien 3 where you're like, they save Newt, yeah, oh, she's dead. Okay, well, never mind.
It really plays on a lot of my fears in that way. I'm like, okay, I'm 33, I'm almost my mid-30s, and then in my brain it starts spiraling, soon I'm going to be middle-aged, and I'm in this career that I really need to work hard at. I need to manage my body, because if I don't manage my body, if I don't manage all these things, I'm going to end up old, bitter, and in pain all the time. So
that's a lot. That's really heavy.
Yeah, it is. But I see that every day when I go to work, when I see the men and women I'm working with, and they always talk about how much pain they're in. And my boss is even like, it's just not natural for us to work this many hours on our feet, and about how, and I'll go into all of it, but it's just like, I'm constantly getting all these visions of like, I need to not be this. I need to make sure that I am fixing my life now, that I don't end up this way, because I want to be able to do all the things that I love. And then I watch a movie like this where Renton put a lot of effort into getting all the things he wanted to love. And then he still ended up with a heart problem. He had a heart attack,
that's
right?
a really good
And then he
point.
ends up divorced, and he ends up going back home living in his childhood bedroom. That, like, fear. Like, this movie touches on all those things.
It's a cautionary tale in kind of the worst way, but I still appreciate it. But it's like a cautionary tale of like, you need to learn to be content with your lot in life, and it's like you can shoot for the stars and hope for the best, but even if you don't get it, you need to be okay with that. And that's what I got from the movie, because at the end of the movie, they didn't kill Begbie. He and Sick Boy end up being friends again, and it's really just like, so we tried to shoot for the stars, we didn't get there, but what we have is we still have our friendship. We still have what we should have had from the beginning before we started fucking each other over. And that scene at the end, which is interesting if you watch behind the scenes, where they're on the couch and they're just talking about the books that Spud was writing, was supposed to take place way earlier in the movie. But when they got into the editing room, they moved it to the end because like, oh, this kind of puts a somewhat better bow on it of everything's fucked, but they still have each other. And I think that was, for me, I thought that was super important.
It does get back to like that one song and be like, the people you knew when you were young will always be there. I don't know. I'm quoting it wrong.
Sure.
But
And I guess this is good, because I was having trouble understanding the point of anything. I was having trouble understanding the point of the camera movements that were all clever. Like, I was having trouble understanding each scene. For the longest time, I was like, where are they going with Frank? Like, how does he... I'm glad they finally brought him into the story, because for the longest time, I thought, is this just nostalgia? We're just going to show Frank and his story, and it's never going to line up. Like, I struggled for a purpose for the movie for so long. I kept going, what is the point other than, hey, remember those friends you fucked over? They're still pissed. So it's good. I'm glad you guys saw something in it, because I got to the end, and I was just like, why? I don't understand why.
Yeah, this was actually one of those movies where when I got to the end, I had to just go to Wikipedia and read the plot summary to get a really clear, concise on how those images and scenes coalesced into an actual story that's trying to deliver a message or a point. See, I feel like for me, it's potentially possible that 20 years from now, I'll watch this and I'll really find that reservoir of meaning. I might just be a little too young for it. It's like when I was too young for Trainspotting when I watched it like as a teenager, and now I'm like, I get what Trainspotting's doing. I actually haven't done heroin.
Sure.
But
You should try it. It's a blast.
I'm more familiar with depictions of it in media.
Yeah.
But this movie, it seems like it's a very specific, like, middle-aged kind of thing. And even if a couple years from now, like CHEWIE's talking about, where I'm getting closer to it and it's dominating more of my thoughts, this movie might have more significance for me personally. But now, for a guy who loved Lego Batman this year, it might just not be hitting on all cylinders.
It's definitely this type of film that it's touching on very specific aspects of life that you can either relate to or not. And if you don't relate to these ideas or problems, then you're going to be bored. Like, because that's really all it's about. Nostalgia, but it's also just about within the nostalgia, it's about a certain type of growing up that not everyone experiences or worries about.
Yeah.
Or can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I mean,
that's the thing is I don't think these guys grow up. I think that might be off the mark a little.
This is a weird movie where, you know how they always say you can never go home? They actually do.
Yeah.
Some of them never leave, and then Renton goes back, and he gets a really actually quite comforting looking hug from his father.
But that's funny you mentioned that because when you watch behind the scenes stuff, that's the only moment in the movie that made Ian McGregor like bawl. Apparently, when he watched the movie, he saw the moment where he hugged his dad, and he just started crying. And it's like the thing that I like about this movie is I like that the idea you can never go home, and this movie's all about you can. Because I think
it might not be the best thing in the world,
but by him going home, that's how Sick Boy was finally able to be content with being home. Like him coming home fixed the puzzle. Like him not being there is what was making Sick Boy's life terrible because they were supposedly the best friends in the entire world. Without Renton there, Spud went back on drugs and he had a whole bunch of problems. Renton comes home and suddenly Sick Boy's happy again. He's doing things that he enjoys again. Granted, they're criminal activities and he shouldn't be doing them, but he's enjoying life again.
That throws some interesting twists into the original movie then, because it's like at the end you're like, good for him for getting out of this life, except him getting out of this life
ruined everybody else's
life. And so in retrospect, it actually changes the end of Trainspotting.
Yeah.
I mean, there are groups of people that need each other.
Sure.
That are like, whether or not it's like a sexual relationship or not, there are just friendship soulmates. And if you lose that, it's a part of you that's gone and you're never going to feel content again.
And that's one of the things I like about this movie is like the friendship between him and Sick Boy. If you've ever read the books, is very, very like in there. In the first Trainspotting movie, I thought it kind of missed the mark a little bit. And I loved Trainspotting, as I mentioned before, but the book is great, but you really feel their bond. In the first movie, you have a couple scenes with them together where it's like, oh yeah, these guys are good friends. And then this movie, they really hammer that, like, no, you guys were inseparable. And I like that this movie is about them kind of coming back together. I don't remember where I was going with that originally.
I don't know.
But
well, and that may be the disservice of watching them so close together, is that in the first movie, I didn't understand why they were friends necessarily. This movie tries harder to bring that home. And I think in of itself as a movie, it does, I get that point. But having seen Trainspotting, I was like you said, I'm like, good, then he got away. There was no reason why he was with them. Like, it doesn't make sense. Everything...
They're mates. What can you do?
yeah,
they're mates. What can you do?
That is the mentality. If I grew up with them, they are my friends for life. They are basically family.
Yeah, I think in this movie, the shots of the child, like their childhood, those pulls in there are kind of what saved that for me.
Yeah,
that like, oh, okay, I see it in this movie. I didn't see it in the other movie. I didn't like they were there. I feel like they were mates in that like a Tarantino-esque way, where it's like just they're gonna be doing criminal things and activities, but they don't really like each other. They're out for themselves and that's it, and they're not mates. But this was like they're mates, and
I get that. Yeah, from the first movie, totally. But I think that's kind of how they saw it in the first movie. Like they're out to get drugs, and whether or not Renton gets drugs or Sick Boy gets drugs, they don't care as long as they're the ones with the drugs. Mm-hmm. Whereas this movie, it's way past that. Like they went through this shit together, and now they realize that without each other, they wouldn't have survived that era. And I think that for me is what comes across a lot. Is like these three, technically four guys, were needed for each other the whole time, and that's why it was so sad that Tommy died in the first one.
Yeah,
and
that crushed me. That was yeah.
And I love that sequence when they go out to like pay respects to Tommy, and Sick Boy's like, "Yeah, I'm not feeling anything. It's sad that he died, but I don't feel it." And like that's just how detached he's become. Like it's depressing. It's sad. It's not a happy movie.
No, because
at all.
Sick Boy essentially, especially when they touch on the death of his daughter,
yeah.
he essentially can't feel anything.
I just wish the movie hadn't been as detached as he was in that moment.
Yeah, it was
like I think for what it's doing, he started to cry, and like the first movie gives him more cry, and I think sometimes like when you were talking about going home, you can go home. Those emotions can come back and overpower. I think editing did that moment, I think, a disservice.
I totally agree, because they had that discussion, and then he mentioned the daughter, and then they cut to Spud leaving flowers for Tommy, and you could see Sick Boy and Renton in the background. And I kept thinking that something was going to happen in the background because he just brought that up. I thought there'd be a fight,
and the music was swelling,
shouting, and the music was swelling. And I think the problem with that is I was so busy looking to the background to see what was going to happen that I completely missed Spud's moment.
I agree with you for the most part, but I also think that, again, just because I've read the books, like that is Sick Boy.
Yeah,
like that is his character through and through. Like you could bring up his daughter, you could full on like insult the fact that he's responsible for his daughter's death. he wouldn't care.
Oh, I agree. I'm
Yeah.
saying the way it was shot,
Sure,
that
sure,
we then
yeah.
cut to a moment that is actually really, really good for Spud.
Yeah.
Good for Spud, but then like framed almost comedically because I thought
Yeah.
with the music swelling that Sick Boy was going to
Yeah.
hit him again.
Yeah.
Like I was kind of like
So-
expecting a violence in the background for some reason.
Yeah, that same. So you missed Spud being emotional
Yeah.
because you were distracted by what was going on in the background. So I've no doubt that's an
Yeah.
appropriate reaction. It's just the way it was.
Yeah, it was
edited
an
together.
awkwardly framed sequence,
Yeah.
and like in a movie where I don't think there's a lot of awkwardly framed
No.
sequences. That's kind of a weak moment to try to shove that in there, but
You know,
it doesn't really bother me that much.
I find it interesting that each character is essentially representative of the emotional spectrum.
Sure.
Because you have, it's Begbie, right?
Begbie,
But he's just pure rage and malice. You have Spud, who is kind of like happiness almost, and remorse and empathy, where he really feels all like the good emotions, and even like remorse is a good emotion. And then you have Renton, who's kind of selfish, very much
Kind
selfish.
of.
And regret and just like all of that. And you have Sick Boy, who's just detached, where he doesn't want to feel anything. They all have their different level of emotions and represent a very specific part of the human experience in this film.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people who full blown hate this movie, and I've talked to a lot of people who love it, and it's interesting what different people take from it.
Yeah.
I have heard a lot of people say kind of the same thing you guys were saying, like where the story just didn't really click. And for me, maybe I do have the slight advantage of having read the source material, so I kind of knew where everything was going already. But it does not follow the source material very well at all, like kind of intentionally. So like this is more so based on the book Porno than it is on Trainspotting. Although there are still some elements from both of them. But Porno takes place 10 years after Trainspotting instead of 20, and it's about him setting up like a porn studio, not a brothel. And by the end of the movie, Renton does the exact same thing he did to them the first time. Steals the money with the girl and flees the city again. And then Sick Boy and Begbie are left in the same place they were the first time, where now they want to go kill Renton again. So it's this kind of like secular notion of like, if you give them the tools, they'll do the same shit to you and people don't change.
That sounds like a French opera.
Yeah, and like the message of the book and the movie are completely different. Because I think this one is like people don't change in a positive way, and the book is people don't change in a very negative way. Whereas this one is like, well, yeah, if they didn't have the heroin and the drugs and all that sort of stuff, they would have just been childhood friends who grew up in the same town together, maybe opened a bar together, just been people. But they did shitty things to each other, shitty, horrible things, and continue to do shitty, horrible things to each other, but they kind of grow with it. Whereas the book was more so like, nope, they're going to just keep fucking each other over until the day they die or kill each other. And it's kind of interesting getting both of those points of view.
All right, episode's over.
Yeah.
We're done. We figured it out.
we figured it out.
Do you want to talk actors?
I really enjoyed the girl because she's very much the outsider in all of this. She has no real connection to any of them. She just kind of thinks they're amusing. Even that conversation that she has with Renton of like, I like Sick Boy. He's a terrible person. And she's just like, I need to keep my distance, but he's got some cute quirks. And then at the end of the conversation she has with Renton, she's like, oh, I like you, Mark. Like she sees the little good things in people, but then she's also very opportunistic, where she's definitely using everyone to kind of get her end goals, and you never get a full sense of what her end goals are. At the very end, you find out that she has a child.
Yeah.
And be like, you don't even know if her end goal was actually to get back to him, or that just was a happy circumstance.
I think it was a happy circumstance.
Yeah.
Was this Gail or different person?
Veronica.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then
wasn't she with Sick Boy, and then she goes with Renton?
Yeah,
But
for a
she's
while.
not really with them.
Yeah.
She just kind of uses
In
them.
fact, there's that scene where she's like, you guys should just fuck each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't
that's
understand
one
it.
of the part that makes me really love her. I like her she uses the advantage of her being able to speak Bulgarian, right?
I believe so.
They have no idea what she's saying,
Yeah.
but they're just like staring at her, nodding, and she's like, I'm embarrassed to be around you. You two should really just go fuck each other. You're clearly in love. It's just really cute. And then it seems like she genuinely has more feelings towards Spud like friendship wise than she does to either Sick Boy or Renton.
Well,
but
Spud
then she
is-
still uses Spud.
Yeah, well, Spud is. I've made the argument before. Spud is the heart of this movie.
Yeah.
Without Spud, this is the most like cold and malice film in a very long time. Without Spud, this movie's just straight up mean.
Well, that's what I mean. He's the good emotions.
Yeah, but the thing that I like about it is that he's both redeemed and not redeemed. At the end of the movie, he's still a junkie. We don't watch him doing heroin the whole time, but I would if he gets a whole bunch of money from that book deal, he's spending it on heroin.
That is the one clever director trick that I really did understand was when he busted in and saved Spud, and they did the thing where he was falling off the roof.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then Renton catches him. That made absolute sense because he's saving him just this one time. He's keeping him. He's not going to save his life, but like long term. But he's helping him just like he probably did. I don't even remember back to the original movie, but like Renton is the reason that Spud is alive, and I did like that little technique of having him fall off the roof, and that was cool. I didn't get a lot of the tricks, but that one was beautiful.
Yeah, I really like that one. I really like the way they shot the just completely going off topic. I really like the way they shot the club scene after I read how they did it or listened to how they did it, where apparently the actors were too self-conscious of the cameras and they weren't letting loose, so they basically created itty bitty rigs and hid them all around the club and then just told them to have fun. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So the scene like right underneath Johnny Lee Miller was just a person with a camera on their shoulder, and that's how they shot. I'm like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome.
Why were they so self-conscious?
It's just they're actors, and they're like, well, they're not going to get a legit party vibe if they know they're acting, so they wanted them just to have fun, and it worked.
I liked the bathroom scene.
The bathroom scene's so fucking funny. That's kind of what the one thing I want to talk about with Begbie in this movie, like.
Talk about somebody who hasn't changed at all.
Yeah, Robert Carlyle.
How do you change when you're stuck in prison? You just stay angry.
Yeah, but I just like Robert Carlyle is one of my favorite actors of all time. Like he's just phenomenal in everything he's in.
Shout out to Stargate Universe.
Yeah.
Undervalued.
Ravenous.
Full Monty.
Oh, he's so good.
Once
in Full
Upon,
Monty.
even though I stopped watching.
Yeah. He's great. He's everywhere and he's great. But him in this movie, like I love just the complete, just like untethered rage he has the whole movie. Like when he finds out like good things, even like good things. Oh, my son's going to college. You fucking cunt. like what?
He
like,
says cunt a lot.
A lot.
Like when he sees
The subtitles
Renton,
couldn't keep up, just by the way.
Yeah, the first time he sees Renton was so good.
Cunt! It's like his version of Khan.
Yeah, the reveal of them sitting next to each other it's just so much fun. Like just as like Renton's being Renton, just being a total dick to this complete stranger, and it just happened to be the one guy who wants to murder him. Like I love it. It's pulled off perfectly, I thought. But anyhow, back to him in this performance. I think like a lot of them played the exact same character they played 20 years ago, whereas I feel like Robert Kyle actually brought something kind of new to his character. Because like whereas like Renton I feel like didn't grow up and that's part of the problem. Sick Boy didn't really grow up and that's part of the problem. Begbie
Evolved.
He went from fighter guy of the town, like the brawler. Like he's just like you get into it, like he's gonna defend his mates, he's there to fight, to do this, and now he has one single goal to kill this one guy, and he's just pure rage. Whereas
Before that, it was to get out of prison.
Well, yeah, but it's still like he went from a guy who was just there, who's kind of like he's the asshole of the crew. You don't want to piss him off; he's going to punch you in the face, and you don't want to get punched.
He
in the
was
face.
also very kind of a moral compass for them in the first movie, which was a weird kind of change for this because, and that what's helped about watching them together was like he was always kind of judging their drug habits,
and
always
clean.
calling them out on it. He stayed clean. He was like that straight edge element, and trying to keep them online, not doing well, but.
He felt like he
had his own addiction.
Yeah, but he felt like his character felt like he needed to be the leader and the dad of the group because he was a little bit older than everybody. So he always kind of had that like I'm responsible for these people. So the major change in this one is like either it's a mixture of I failed and I need to kill them. Like he's just pure rage, and I really like that Robert Carlyle kind of made that into a person. Like he made it into like a person that I feel like I could meet. I wouldn't want to meet, but he feels like a real thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's full, I don't remember the right term for it, but focused. Because
Yeah.
when he's in prison, his focus is, I need to get out of prison. Either like he started to teach himself law, so then he had to discuss things with his lawyer, and then when his lawyer didn't do what he wanted, he got pissed and tried to kill him.
He
and
also
then he
studied-
learned anatomy
Yeah.
and how to get out, and then he learned how to. He's very calculated once he chooses a goal on how to accomplish that goal. And then when he didn't have a goal, he's just sitting watching TV going, I don't know what the fuck to do. I have no purpose. I'm out of prison now.
Yay, now I
need
can
to
go
hide."
kill Renton.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Well-
when he learns
Yeah.
where Renton
Exactly.
is. So the moment he sees where Renton is, he
Well,
figures
also
it out.
when he reads Spud's story and he realizes,
Yeah, but
like
that's
how
the beauty of it. Because he feels like, how do I get Renton? Okay, so I need to find Spud, and then Spud will get me there, and then, all right, I need to use this phone, I need to coerce them into this place, I need to trap them. Like, he's very pinned on his focus.
Well, and then what you said earlier, Brian, about him like kind of being kind of their leader and failing them. He's kind of his whole little kind of side excursion to find the Viagra and get that.
Yeah.
And do all those things, like this impotency thing that is fueling his rage was very clear cut. Like it was very interesting, kind of juxtaposing that.
Yeah, and I like that Renton tries to appeal to that nature of him. Like
Yeah.
1 second, he tries like, hey, remember when we were kids? We were friends then.
That scene is beautiful.
Yeah.
I love the split between the two of them looking up as kids.
Yeah, it's and I love it. It's an attempt, and he's like, yeah, you're right. I still want to kill you though. Yeah. You still ruined my life, and I love that they ruined each other's lives over $4,000. Like it kind of brings us like a different light to it. Just like $4,000.
And even I do love that detail that he was trying to help Spud, but actually ended up still making his life worse
Yeah.
by helping him.
Yeah.
It's like, what did you think I was gonna do? I'm a junkie.
And that's what I love. He turns down the money from the girl. She's like, "I'll give you your cut. Just give it to my kid, because I'll spend it on drugs."
Tries. Like, Spud is always trying. He's just really bad at not doing heroin.
He can't defeat the addiction.
Yeah, his story about not understanding what daylight savings time was in the very beginning. It's just like it's funny, but it's also like, man, that sucks.
It's like, why didn't anyone have any sympathy for him in that situation?
Because people don't have sympathy for drug addicts. Look at our current health system.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
trying to just
It's so
opioid
stupid.
addiction. Fuck off. Like we're a terrible.
And heroin is a genuine problem with the middle America right now in general.
Yeah.
It's had a huge resurgence.
Yeah, so like, we have no system for respect or trying to help these people,
Except
and it's
England has a socialized medicine, though.
that's true. But
It's really
Even
dumb.
with-
How does Scotland work in that? Do they have?
I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't do any research into that. I probably should.
damn it, Brian.
I'm sorry.
Why didn't you research the Scottish healthcare system?
Wikipedia
Like
is
you
like
read all the train spotting books.
I know, I
like
just-
that helps.
They didn't have a chapter on the health system. I'm sorry. And I haven't read them since high school. It's been a while. But yeah, what else? What else have we hit? We hit Renton pretty hard. Bagby, Sick Boy, Spud. Camera, music's good.
I am curious as to who Renton married. It would have been interesting to have a little glimpse into that, but it wasn't necessary for the story.
I assume he married the first girl who said yes.
Just the most general, like,
No.
she seems like a safe wife.
Well, yeah, you take that speech at the end of the movie where he talks about being a normal person. So he would go find the first normal girl that he would consider normal. Who knows what that actually is? But the girl that he would consider normal, who would agree to marry him, and that's what he would want. And then she wants to have a normal life with kids and a house and a yard, and he doesn't want to do that stuff. And then, it starts coming off the rails.
Yeah. Oh, his ex-girlfriend. I don't remember her name right now.
Kelly
The
MacDonald?
lawyer.
Kelly MacDonald, yeah.
Yeah.
She's
It was. She's only in it for one scene, but I think she killed it in that scene. Just
Oh, yeah.
all of the like lawyery judgment she did about like, here I am as a successful person, and you guys are still a mess, but
Yeah.
I'll still help you. This is how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, exactly.
It was
Because I wouldn't do it for free if I were her or
Yeah.
either. You can't trust these dudes.
no,
No.
you give him an inch.
Yeah.
Yeah, like she totally knows exactly who they still are.
Oh yeah, but I mean that's what was enjoyable about that one sequence. It's like this somewhat glimpse into the life he could have had. I mean, it's kind of in the trailer they mentioned a little bit.
Yeah.
Like if you'd been smarter about this, granted you shouldn't have been banging a 16-year-old.
She didn't tell him.
That's true, but still,
He didn't know until she put the outfit on, and then he felt bad.
he didn't feel bad. He felt guilty. There's
And
a
had
difference.
The most
There's a
awkward,
big difference.
The most awkward serial moment I think I've seen in any movie.
Yeah. Oh, fun side note. I mentioned this to Chewie when we were watching it. behind the scenes of Trainspotting 1, the first day Kelly McDonald's on set was when they shot the sex scene. She did not know there was a sex scene the first day and invited her parents to set.
Come on, honey. Read the call sheet.
Oops. So, Mom, Dad, I'm going to go fuck Ian McGregor. Remember Shallow Grave? Ian McGregor? Yeah, he was good in that. I'm going to go bang him. See ya.
He'll be in a Star War.
Trust me, he's impressive.
Yeah, he's future Obi-Wan. It's going to be
He is,
fine.
dude. I had a poster of him in my college dorm room.
Yeah.
We all had an Ian McGregor.
Did you?
Crush.
Did we?
I have a binder that I've not gotten rid of where I had made a collage out of his face.
I also had a poster of
okay.
Ian McGregor on my wall in college, but it was from Trainspotting.
I almost bought a poster for The Island.
Why not?
No.
I like the island.
I like how Elliot doesn't say anything for like 10 minutes, and then he says something. We're like, "Bah!"
Shut up, Elliot.
Brian likes that movie too. It's
I do like
terrible.
it. It's a good movie.
It is not a good movie.
It was sponsored by Xbox.
Remember how I said that Power Rangers had some of the best product placement I've enjoyed in a while? The Island had some of the worst product placement that I did not
Xbox.
enjoy.
Wait, when
Mountain
you say
Dew.
The Island was a good movie, do you mean like I think Battleship is a
Yes,
good movie?
absolutely.
Oh, okay, all right.
Absolutely.
That makes sense. I totally agree with you. Okay.
I don't. As
It has
said,
a
I don't
which
like that
clone
shit.
should you kill moment. Yeah, it's a piece of shit.
Okay.
But in the best way.
Yeah.
I own it. Is there anything that we have not hit in this movie that people want to talk about?
One thing that stood out to me was the Spud stuff at the beginning. That almost was more reminiscent of the original's sense of humor. Him with the daylight savings time,
Sure.
him screwing up the job interview.
Yep.
And then when Renton rescues him from killing himself, like he throws up into the
so
bag
gross.
that's wrapped around his face. So it's just like an explosion of vomit in the immediate area surrounding his head.
But just to lean
Or
into
you
that,
and Brimmer in that scene.
Yeah, no
Jesus.
kidding. The interesting about that is he's the only one who hasn't really left the same place that he was since the first movie.
He's
So
still
it
in
makes
the same
sense that
apartment.
I don't remember the apartment, but still, he's in the same mindset that he was in the first movie. So it makes sense that same style of humor and everything would be in the same spot with him, leaning into the making of the movie a little bit more personally, from what I think.
It might be interesting
More stories.
coming at this from when we saw these, because I do feel that I was in for this movie and his previous movie disservice by seeing them in 2017.
This movie came out in 2017,
But like the first one too. So like,
oh, okay.
So I've missed Trainspotting everything until for this movie, and by that I just don't get as much out of it as I might have had I connected earlier. It feels like this is traces of its time, but nostalgia folding in on that. So like, there's things that it's about that I kind of miss and leave me feeling more sick boy than Renton on this.
The 90s was also such a time of, like, because we had Beck's Loser, we had, like, there was such a time of like, apathy, and it was grunge, so you even dressed like a slob. There was just sort of this sense of, like, fuck it, fuck everything is bad, which in retrospect, boy, we really should have appreciated what we had. And, but that movie really echoed that. So if you were a teenager listening to grunge music, watching this movie, that really resonated with you. And so I don't know that movie resonates with somebody who's like an adult with a full-time job and married with a kid, in the same way. Especially, it was very much a product of its time. But I guess maybe that's this movie, is if your life is still shitty, you can relate to it.
And so it kind of produces this unintended, like, I know the whole meta message of nostalgia and all that. It kind of basically just suggests that nostalgia in and of itself is bad. And I think, I don't necessarily agree with that. It holds you back, and agree or not, it's almost.
This is definitely nostalgia porn.
Definitely.
It is very nostalgic porn, and I think some of how I was off put from this movie is kind of because of that, because I'm already kind of on my journey toward like this anti-nostalgia thing to begin with. So to see this, I'm just like, well, of course this is doing this. Of course you're going to fail, because
It's
you can't let
self-conscious about it, though.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
if this was to take I'm trying to think of a good example, but if this was a movie that was just, hey, remember when we made the other movie?
Yeah.
I would agree with you fully. It's not that, though. This
That's
is a
like
movie
Hangover 2.
yeah, like
Right.
this is not a movie telling you to remember Trainspotting. This is a movie that's using Trainspotting to tell a story.
Yeah. Because
Right.
they even illustrate that, they get meta about it, about how their message of nostalgia is negative. When they go to rob all the people about 1690,
Yeah.
they talk about
did
them
like that
they're
sequence.
so
That sequence fun, yeah.
they're
That was
so
fun.
stuck in something that happened 300 years ago, and it's like, you guys are stuck in something that happened 20 years ago. You're judging these people and stealing their money, but you're just like them.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of, and to me, that they're kind of throwing that into our faces too while we're watching the movie.
Yeah, I think this movie is like it's exactly what you just said. I think it does that. I think it does that very well, though. Like the talking about nostalgia while being nostalgic, which you can't really do one without the other.
And I think it's one of the first movies I can say where it's like there's all these parts that I really enjoyed and I think is a really well made movie. But it's like the first one I don't like. I'm never gonna watch this one again. I don't like any of the characters. Like I don't like it. It makes me not like. I just don't like watching it. But there's all this interesting stuff that is still making me think about it. That's a weird distinction. We don't have many movies that do that where it's like so gray.
Yeah,
And so interesting.
I admit-
I've seen movies where I'm like, no, that was cool. I never want to watch it again.
Yeah.
But there's kind of
I
like
did
this
not
where I'm
have
at.
that from this one.
Where I'm
I
at.
could watch this one all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I love this.
I mean, it's kind of like how I really like the movie Blue is the Warmest Color.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I'll ever really feel the need to watch it again. But I do enjoy this one, and I'll watch this one again. It really just depends on the movie, I think.
But like, kind of, I'm at war with it in terms of how I'm thinking about it.
Hey, what's up? It's Brian here. You might have just heard Chewie say, how bad? How bad is in reference to me dumping my coffee all over the recorder. A wonderful move on my part. It appears that everything has worked great, but there's clearly no way to edit around that, and we might make a few references to it throughout the rest of the episode. I apologize greatly for how the episode's going to kind of end with a bit of a wet but the good news is that our episodes will continue after this, because it is working again. I'm a little embarrassed, a little annoyed, but everything's going to work out fine. So enjoy the rest of the episode. Sorry for the lackluster ending again. And yeah, here we go.
Where were we? We were
You know,
almost done.
it doesn't matter where we
were
were.
in disaster control.
We were in Brian fucking spilled his coffee all over the recorder.
You had one job, Brian.
I had one
to
job.
not fuck it up.
Was my one job to not spill coffee on the recorder?
Your
I feel
one
like you had
job
a
is
lot
to
of
manage
jobs,
the
but that was-
podcast.
That's in the job. It's
if
in
you
the job
spill
description.
coffee on the podcast, you are fucking up.
Well, then I fucked up.
I'm not
I'm-
going to give you a good Yelp review.
I
I'm
didn't know
not
we're on
gonna,
Yelp. I'm just excited about being on Yelp.
I'm not gonna judge you at all because I'm clumsy as fuck and have like destroyed sets. So
Well, I would
Not
judge
really.
you if you did that
Yeah,
because
no,
I
I've destroyed
control
a
the
set.
set.
Yeah. But
And
I
I would
have
judge
fucked
Brian
props
because
up,
I'm his
though.
wife, so it's kind of half my.
the set destroyer.
So anyhow, to bring today's episode to a close, I apologize for the very anticlimactic end. So I think it's a great time for quotes
All right, let's find some quotes for this thing.
for this sucker.
This
I already
is
know mine.
Go for it. Please
It's-
don't take mine.
Spud, after Renton saves him, and he'd be like, "I was a junkie. What did you think I was going to do with it? You ruined my life, and now you're ruining my death."
That's a good one. I also went for a well, mine wasn't a Spud line. Mine was a Sick Boy line, and mine was hold on, I need to look at it. I don't want to say it wrong.
I probably said mine wrong.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
I've got one. It's from Simon. They're at the memorial, and this line particularly stuck out with me.
Are you about to say this line right here?
Oh, do you want that one?
Yeah,
Okay,
shut your dirty little mouth. I got
Shut
mine.
your mouth.
All right,
I'm going to go with mine because he's about to say it. I'm going with your tourist in your own youth.
it's a good line,
It's a great line.
and I am still thinking about that today, like dwelling on that. So that's actually pretty cool. I need another moment.
I went with the theme of the movie, which is Sick Boy telling Renton, "Nostalgia. That's why you're here."
That's a good one.
Doesn't Renton go on about, you're an addict. You just got to be addicted to something else. Whatever that was.
Yeah, that's a good one.
There you go. Whatever that was.
Sure.
When I arrived here, I watched the trailer in my car to like refresh myself on it, and that line was in the trailer. So
Oh,
It's
there
a
you go.
good line.
It's a good line. It's decent.
it's words on a script page.
You don't like that line?
It's there.
I don't know. I think that really resonates with addiction. You like how you can turn it into a positive.
Can
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Some people do. All right, John. Last but not least.
All right, I've got another
How do you
one.
think science happens?
That's not the one.
Is it diction?
Well, it's just obsessiveness. Like, if you can focus that addiction onto something useful, you could cure cancer. It's like you just need to become addicted to something positive.
Very pro-addiction podcast all of a sudden.
I mean,
Didn't you know?
it's pro taking something that you're viewing as a negative and turning it into a positive, which is what I think most people need to do with their I'll be annoying and use quotation mental problems.
Are you recommending that people get high on life?
I'm recommending that people stop using crutches and make things useful instead of deterrence or whatever. Bad words.
All right, so for my quote, it's from the scene where they're talking to Diane at the lawyer's office, and she tries to see if there's any identifying marks on the lady, Veronica. And so then she brings up the perineum, and she doesn't know what that is. And so Renton explains, and then she's like, "That's disgusting." And then Diane comes with this phrase, with this saying, "So you're not vajazzled?" And then I
That's a
was
good
like,
one.
"What?" And I was like, "Whoa, this is funny."
Yeah, I like that one.
And
I
it was
just-
it was a moment of comedy in something that was already kind of getting a little too bleak for
Yeah.
me. But
I don't know. I kind of think it reads into her job a little bit. I mean, like, how many times has she had to deal with a person who was vajazzled?
it really is in that performance of the line.
Yeah.
Review system. Sequels. That's it. Just sequels. Any and all sequels are in play.
I will go with Ghostbusters. I really enjoy Ghostbusters 2.
Oh,
I
okay.
know
I
a
was
lot
like-
of people say that it's not as good as 1. I'm like, okay, so it doesn't have as much of an emotional impact or whatever as amazing as Ghostbusters 1 was, because Ghostbusters was new and completely original. But honestly, when it comes to quotes, I quote the second one all the freaking time. I can't do a good accent for Vigo, but I love doing it.
Vigo. I can't either.
I'm going to go for Before Sunset.
Ugh.
Emily and I disagree on movies, apparently.
Hey,
lot.
I don't like those
But we
movies
agree
either.
on T2.
That's true. It's the best movie ever made.
Right.
So I'm going with Before Sunset. Maybe you'll agree with this, because they're very much a similar movie where it's all about regret and what you should have done and what you didn't do. And I think that's what this movie's about too.
I would go with 42 Up.
With what?
42 Up. If any of you are familiar with the
the
Up
Up
series
Okay, I've heard
of
of it. Yeah.
documentaries, they basically
okay, sure.
started with this segment on a news program called 7 Up and just interviewed all these 7-year-olds in England or something. And then
Not America.
every 7 years they would revisit them. So the first sequel was 7 + 7, so like 7 years later, to see how everybody has changed. And then after that it was like 21 Up, 28 Up. I'm not going to do my 7 multiples right now, but it basically checks in with the same group of people every 7 years to just see how their lives have changed, like what's going on for them now. And over the run of the documentary series, you really just witness dreams kind of fading and settling into normalcy, and just all the curveballs that life throws people that alters their path. You know, you watch the first one and you kind of make guesses for everybody what their lives are going to be like. And there's a lot of surprises that come through the series. So watching TRAINSPOTTING 2, I definitely thought about that Up series a lot, because it was like watching the first movie right before this one. It's getting a sense of who these people are. You have judgments about them. Maybe this one will make something of himself. This one's probably going to die in a couple of years. And then watching the sequel, you know, they kind of went where they went. But it's something that's really interesting to see this kind of evolution in characters over the course of 2 decades.
It's pretty interesting. I'd like to watch those. Who hasn't gone yet?
Much as I would love to use Mad Max Fury Road, I'm not going to. And I could. But I want to go with Alien 3.
Okay.
Because of what we said earlier about like Newt, you root for Newt to survive in the first movie, in the second movie, and then like at the beginning of the third movie, it's just sort of like, oh, FY, dead. Spoiler alert. But also because Alien 3 was a film made by a brilliant director, or future brilliant director, because he was pretty untested at that point, but still, with a lot of ambition, and there was a lot of clever camera work in it. There were a lot of interesting ideas, and it just didn't quite do what it set out to do.
Does have the best shot in any of the Alien franchise,
Which
though.
is the...
She has the alien right next to her.
Oh, yeah,
Such a
with
great
the
shot.
face and
Yep.
the other face.
So awesome.
That's the
internet
technical
uses
term.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Like a lot.
Did you go yet, John?
I haven't gone yet. I'm still trying to find a sequel because I don't want to praise it too much or diss it too much, and I'm getting too close to that. Let's.
Fievel Goes West.
I love that movie.
That's a great movie.
Holy shit, that actually works.
No, that if he doesn't like the movie, that's not good. Just go with Hangover
that's
2.
true.
Let John make his own decision.
John-
I make my own, my own decisions, damn it.
No,
No, you get Five Goes West.
no, Hangover 2.
Five Goes West.
Oh, God.
Let's do Kill Bill Volume 2.
Okay.
And for the fact that it's as much as I like it and it's doing some cool things, it is uneven and needs its first half. Like it needs its first part. Like so Trainspotting 2 is nothing without its other movie, and Kill Bill 2 is really nothing
That's
without
true.
Kill Bill
That is
Volume
true.
1. So that's where I'm pulling it together in terms of its more technical aspects and kind of what it's trying to do and how it needs the other one to survive.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right, cool.
So that's it for today. Again, I apologize for the very anticlimactic end of our conversation there. I will not drink coffee around the recorder again, assuming the recorder keeps working, which we're hoping for the best. As far as plugs go, make sure you listen to Beyond School. 3 episodes left. Right?
Yep.
As far as us, check out Spotify. I love our playlist. Check out our game, which not a lot of people have been responding to, but I put a lot of work into this thing. So every Monday we have a game come out called Tip in My Brain, where we show 5 different screenshots from 5 different movies, and it's your job to guess them. I'm going to try to start thinking of some prizes to try to get people to play along a little bit more, because I really like pulling these things, and I want people to enjoy them as much as I do. Once I start thinking of that, I will let you know. It's very much...
Let's just say
in
that
the
if you
works.
get started on it now, you'll be in better standing than if you just start on it when we offer prizes. How about that?
Yeah, I just came up with, I think I pulled about 10 at work yesterday. Some of them are pretty tough.
I would totally be guessing them if I didn't actually see the file names.
Yeah,
I'd have
I
to change
named them
myself.
so that we here can actually guess what they are. But
Yeah.
I don't want to be a
For
complete-
creating the post, it's very helpful, but for
Yeah.
actually playing along, it's like, well, I can't do anything with this.
I usually
cannot
can't
respond
guess
to
what they
anybody.
are. I feel
Really?
like an idiot when I play that game.
I love the game.
Yeah, you pick really well. Oh, there was one that was the fucking Green Lantern.
Yeah.
So like that one, I could figure that out.
That one was in the I have 5 folders on our site that's easy, still easy, normal, not normal, good fucking luck.
I was getting really frustrated that one time I pulled a bunch of stills and Brian didn't get Secretary or Dick Tracy. And I was just like, come on.
I haven't seen Dick
love
Tracy in forever.
Secretary.
Secretary, I mean, you chose a pretty iconic shot. That one I should
Yeah.
It was her hands on the desk. I'm like, that one I
That
should have
was,
gotten.
I was beating my head against the wall.
Yeah,
like,
and I knew I'd
looked
seen
so
that one.
familiar.
Where
Yeah.
are you?
I had to do punishment in some way. That picture led me to that.
I had to do
Nice.
3 punishments. It's all right.
So thank you very much for everyone for listening. Hopefully you're still listening and this is actually working. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.